My name is Naeem Al-Obaidi, and I founded SnipersTube. And we're a community of investors that, trade. I have a trading background. I got into the sphere around 2010, and I was a machinima director at the time, posting gaming videos, and I'd grown a community on machinima. And I was looking to accept payments online, but I couldn't use PayPal because I wasn't over the age of 18 at the time. And I went on to Google and I was just searching for alternate methods, and I found Bitcoin in 2010, and I started utilizing that and accepting Bitcoin for payment. That was the only thing I'd accept. And I fast forward in 2014, I started trading traditional markets, and in 2014 I realized the amount of volatility that was in this market was just extreme, and there was a lot more of an opportunity as a trader. And so I liquidated all of my capital in 2014, began trading, went full-time in trading. I started making YouTube videos in early of 2017, and as that progressed, I started to really grow a following, and it was extremely unexpected. And as that grew, I also had grown my Discord as well, which was the group of investors, and that has been extremely fun because now I have a team of full-time analysts that provide daily market updates, information, and things like that. And now I have the time to focus on more so of the things that really matter and that I can only focus on, like doing a lot of different things. I'm also working with Michael Jackson's former manager, Mark Lamica now, and he managed Michael Jackson for 20 years in Hollywood and until the day he died. And so he's got all of these different connections in Hollywood, and we're partly funding concerts like Drake and Bruno Mars with crypto now, and it's been fun to be able to really apply cryptocurrencies to an actual industry. So for me personally, I come from an influencer marketing background where, we manage 1.3 billion followers, and we have a ton of companies come to us and they look for PR through influencers. And so what I know for my YouTube channel is my personal brand is more important than any sort of paycheck, because a personal brand is going to make you way more money long-term than anything else. And if you think long-term, then you know that. But I want to give a real-life example of a really good way that I've seen a company do really well in terms of gaining influencer support, and that's Monarch. And it's led by Robert Beatles and Stay. And something that is funny about them is because I am an advisor to their company, and I've done a video of their company, but it's because I went to Jason's house, the CMO of the company. I went to Snay's apartment, the CEO of the company. I video chatted with Robert, and I did an interview with him, the CEO, the co-founder of the company. So they built a relationship with me, and I had gotten to know them. I went out with Snay for dinner multiple times, and I learned that they were really great people. And and then I think the other side to it is the influence. The influencer also have to have ethics and morals and values in order to take on any sort of project. And so the other aspect to it is the project just has to make sense, quality over quantity, all the time, for me at least. So when I'm working with projects, I'm looking at their token economics specifically, because in my opinion, that's one of the most important aspects of a project. And if the token economics don't make sense, why do you need a token? Most of the projects don't need a token. Right. But when the token is backed by an asset, when there's there's a security token and a utility token, and things make sense, then it makes me more at ease to take the project on. And as long as they approach me in the proper way. And I think that needs to be different and personable. And as long as those two aspects are there, then there's a better opportunity than just to send an email or, a phone call.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I thought that was really, really well said. Trying to put everything back into blockchain.
Just to chime in,
yeah, please.
If that's your method as an influencer, you won't be an influencer for long. We've seen influencers.
To say no to projects or yes to projects?
You have to say no to projects. If you're an influencer, you're not saying no to projects, you're not going to be around for a long time.
Because you'll have burned your reputation so quickly.
We've seen influencers, millions of followers, done the next day because they've taken on a project that they shouldn't have taken on.
No. Yeah, actually, so maybe the theme between your and I's talk right now would be no, right? It's like knowing when to say no.
Absolutely.
And I think that's maybe an applicable skill to a lot of things outside of even just a project influence. I mean, like life, knowing how to say no to things, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Just to add to what you mentioned in terms of always saying no, I also think that's the wrong idea as well, because you have to look at any other industry, any other company, right? You look at Fortnite, for example, one of the most successful video games in the world. The reason is because they were able to pay influencers to go ahead and promote their product, their game, and that's why it became successful. So if you guys want cryptocurrencies and blockchain to really become something in the future, well, there has to be some form of marketing. There has to be some form of advertising, but it has to be proper. It has to be projects vetted.
You mind if I piggyback as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with Coin Daddy, basically, it's all about Bitcoin, right? But it's not promotion. It's like evangelizing. I think there's a big difference, right? When you're promoting something, it kind of has a certain association in your mind, right? Everybody thinks they know what promotion means. But when you're evangelizing something, you're talking about it out of love. You're just sharing this information. You don't want anything extra back for doing it. When I talked about I've been talking about Bitcoin since 2013, a very long time. Like, it's what I love to talk about it. Whether I'm on a stage or whether I'm anywhere, I'll always be talking about it. And it wasn't cool to talk about it for a while. And I was told to STFU so many times because nobody wants to hear it anymore. But now people want to hear it, right? But that's love. That's like the correct promotion, in my opinion.
You mentioned some really good points. If you're a company and you think that you don't need marketing anymore, no matter how big you are, I think that that's a really bad marketing decision, or a really bad decision by the CEO of that company or the CMO of that company, because Coca-Cola still has a huge advertising budget. The biggest companies in the world have the largest advertising budgets. The biggest companies in the world have the largest marketing budgets. And I think you're more of a shiller if you're only promoting the coins that have already become big, because now you're not really taking the time aside to say, hey, why don't I actually put my head down, read these white papers, understand token economics, understand what these white papers say, so I can, myself, and the reason I'm passionate about this is I have full-time analysts on my payroll every single day. The goal is to find projects that have value. And it's literally like finding a diamond in a thing of all sand. It's horrible. So
why do you need to find another diamond? That's my question.
Because I think it's important to find the right projects. Because when you find the right projects, especially if you have a network that can bring funding, then you want to deploy those funds to that project. And the majority of projects that are good that I've seen don't go out looking for funding because they're already working, they've already got funding, at least enough funding to start their amazing concept or idea that they've proposed. And that's just from my experience as an angel investor, that's my experience as a marketer, and in the sphere, I've seen the majority of the good companies that actually have something to offer, they're doing private funding, they're raising funds privately. They've got just enough to work on their project, and then the ones that are out trying to raise hundreds of millions, there's just no need for it.
So which means you are also investing in some of those projects?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
yeah.
Which means those projects are coming to you and you will take a look, dig into it. Some of those are cool, then you will invest before anybody else.
I mean,
sometimes.
As an investor, you always, if you find something that you feel is lucrative, yeah.
If you can get someone to read your article instead of watching a video, I think that's a huge step, because it takes a while for people to read. It takes a lot of time, and in this world, we all are watching videos all the time. And I said, start there, then you start a blog somewhere. Okay, you start a blog somewhere, you get people to read more, and then you pop up the videos. So that's what I think.
So you are suggesting people write instead of making their own videos to start with?
Yeah, that was a really good point. Written content, video content, audio content, I mean, you just have to find what fits for you. And I think if you're an engineer, you're a developer, and you want to build some sort of influence on social media, you just look at some of the best that have done it, like Charlie Lee, right? Charlie Lee has Litecoin, top 5 coin. How is it in the top 5? Well, guess what? He's posting on his own Twitter his thoughts, what everything means to him. It's not boring. It's his personal brand. And in today's world, if you don't have a personal brand, your company most likely won't be around for long, and there's obviously exceptions to that. But you look at the major corporations, if I were to ask you who started IBM, maybe some of you would know, but majority of people won't. But if I say who started Microsoft or Apple, you say Bill Gates, you say Steve Jobs, because there's personal brands. And then you have to determine, all right, well, look how successful Microsoft and Apple is compared to IBM right now. And so I think having a personal brand behind your company is extremely important. I think the next decade of successful businesses are going to be businesses that have a personal brand at the forefront and then have a company behind it.
That's a good suggestion.
That's really good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think every business owner, especially product developers, imagine that as soon as they put it out in the world, oh, this influencer is going to love it. And why wouldn't they love it? Because in your mind, you've completed some kind of human need that everyone's going to want to satisfy. And the reality is you're faced with the same challenges of making your product, your idea known that these influencers were faced with, that these content creators were. And so, yeah, creativity is king. Understanding what the right path forward, whether it is more of a focus on technical writings or whether it's about creative sort of out of the box marketing. And then, of course, influencers that are in a position to deliver influence upon humans and make them act and buy and move. They have the choice of who they work with. So you have to influence them. You have to get their attention. It's not like they're just going to go, okay, cool, like we were just talking about. So yeah, I mean, creativity, it's not easy. Your product has to be amazing, and then your approach has to be creative and a little bit novel. Obviously, having a great personal brand of a founder is very useful as well. So all those things, but it's not going to be just something that just happens because you have a great product and, oh, the influencers are just going to work with you because you made it.
It's also a double-edged sword, because if you have a front-facing persona that is taking on all these media relations, if that person has a misstep, a very public misstep, then it can work the other way.
But what happened to Trump? Did that work to his benefit?
Trump has the confidence to spin something like that, and I don't think very many people do.
I do marketing campaigns specifically geared towards negative connotations towards the influencer. I'll give you an example because I'm not under NDA for this one, but we had an influencer and he made a rap song against another influencer. Then he already scripted the rap song that he wanted that influencer to rap against him, and then he had his already set, and that was their marketing campaign and went viral. And everybody else thought it was just him rapping bad against this guy, and then this guy coming back at him with a crazier rap, and then him finalist. But it was all marketing, and you look at the most successful marketing campaigns, you can actually do there are campaigns that cost so little but have so much visibility because it uses fear, it uses some of these things that like negative, because the human brain always goes towards negative if you know human psychology.
It's kind of like a Vince McMahon thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at the new Nike ad that came out that Coin Daddy had a meme of.
I was asked to not wear the shirt.
I mean, when you pick the right combination of elements, you get the sort of viral aspect, and that's, I think, what modern marketing really aspires to more than anything.
Yeah. So is that what you just talk about open source?
What about marketing? Who marketed Bitcoin?
We all did. We all did.
Oh, just
Every
I wanted to add something to this. So there's an example, another funny story. So there was a company that did a billboard, and they basically on the billboard said, "We now support Black Lives Matter." And because of that, everyone that didn't support Black Lives Matter were making a big fuss about it on social media. That right there was a huge marketing campaign for that company. I believe it was Nike. I think it was there was that recent one too, with people burning Nikes. I don't know if you guys saw that, but people were burning Nikes because they were supporting. So now you're seeing companies starting to support groups because they know that the counter group is going to want to talk against them and market them for free, because the smartest companies right now and the companies I work with, we do monetized marketing to where your PR doesn't cost you money. If you're paying for PR right now, there's a ton of exceptions to this, but for the majority of companies that just want visibility, there's so many ways to do it where it's either a break even or even a profit.
Yeah. So this made me think about, like, for example, Tron CEO Justin Sun. He like to attack Vitalik a lot on social media.
Marketing genius.
So that's one of the ways you think other engineers can.
Why do you think he's so? He's like a marketing genius. every big, for the majority of these coins, they're all marketing. Look at what Ripple did. They went on Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why do you think he went off an interview? I don't think that was intentional, but I don't know if you guys saw the interview where Roger went off.
Also, I've seen also there's usually two different type of ways. One company just pitching to each of you and give you guys money to say, hey, can you guys do the promotion? It's like really direct, but however, a lot of people don't like it. There's another way I've seen recently is like social media campaigns. For example, okay, we are having an influencer campaign right now. For example, one of the projects I've seen recently, they're saying like, if who did the best video for me will win 5 Ethereum or 10 Ethereum. Do you think that's something you guys like?
Contest work. You know what I see with a lot of these influencers and these companies, the mistakes they make. The majority of the companies don't spend their marketing dollars properly. They just don't know how. They don't know how to properly market their item, their product. But when I think of any concept, any company, if I'm looking to invest in something or I want to come up with an idea so that I can give it to a CEO to go ahead and go and put to life, I'm looking at what is my marketing technique before I even think of what the actual product and use is. And then you look for what is going to change, what's going to impact. So, like, in my opinion, I think that most of these companies need to take a little bit more time to think about their marketing strategy, or go to somebody that knows what they're doing, you know, or you end up like some of the, we had a client, we did $3 million in PR, and then within 9 months, they burned $10 million and they went out of business, had to let go of all their companies. Their whole company's done and bankrupt. So why? Because they didn't spend their dollars properly. And so it's just sad to see, but we're going to see more of it. And
Companies spend money on Google AdWords and also Facebook ads.
and Facebook ads is the most powerful platform in the world right now.
But yeah, so like, it's just so crazy. So like, back to my question, do you think for that type, companies through that campaign over there saying like, maybe 5 Ethereum is nothing at this moment, for 5 BTC, who did the best video for me?
Here's the issue with giving out. Here's the issue with that. The issue with giving out like that is you're attracting the wrong people. You're attracting the people that don't have money, that aren't going to use your product. You know, and I say that from personal experience. I remember starting my YouTube channel and doing giveaways. And I didn't grow whatsoever. It did nothing for me. I just spent money, lost money. It was an expense on my payroll that I didn't need. And when I stopped it, it was because I realized people are being attracted. Like, I attracted the wrong people. And then when I was organic and I really developed a personal relationship with my audience, that's when I started to see real organic, fulfilling growth.
I actually don't like those design contests at all. I think it's not fair to the designers. I think you have these people that are very hopeful and they're putting all of this time for the chance of being chosen. And then most of the time, like, what, every single person other than the one who was chosen was not chosen. So they just wasted all of their time. And I just don't think it's fair to lead someone on with that hope when you're only picking one. It's just not cool.
Yeah, and we have companies come and they ask for like, we have a ton of airdrop groups, right? You have 50,000 Telegram users, and we put an airdrop there, and lets you distribute tokens. And I will tell some of these companies, I don't think this is a good investment. It doesn't, to me, the money doesn't matter. It's just, what matters is this going to be an effective use of your capital?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I see with all of these companies that have so much funds. And that's why the majority of companies that are raising, the majority of these funds, they don't know how to properly disperse them. And that's so important when starting a company. You have to know how to disperse your funds properly.
Yeah, I think this touches on something that we were discussing earlier, which is a lot of the products in this industry, cryptocurrency, are actually coins or tokens whose application are not really direct products, but they're sort of mimics or other versions of currently existing tokens. And so, you know, I'll go back that, you know, what we need really are products that affect people, that actually solve problems in the world. And actually, when you have great products, that's a viral growth mechanic. That is publicity. When you have a product that changes people's day, that makes their day better. How many people found out about Uber through an advertisement? You find out about a great product because someone tells you about it, because word of mouth advertisement is always going to be the strongest. And we still are in our infancy as an industry where we don't have products that are making people go, oh my God, look at how much easier my day got because of this.
I want to add, so let's say you're an actor in Hollywood and you're trying to be successful as an actor. You don't go to the parties where all the actors are, right? Because they're all looking for jobs. You go to the parties where all the producers are, right? And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of these companies that are in the cryptocurrency sphere. They're spending money on marketing in the cryptocurrency sphere, when in reality, what they need is, in my opinion, to spend their money on is micro influencers, not macro influencers. So macro influencers are influencers that have millions of followers. They cost way more money. But micro influencers, which by the way is where we're going to see influencer marketing go in the next 5 to 7 years, are influencers that might have 40 to 50,000 followers, all organic, in a specific hometown for a specific subject. So let's say you're a financial services company, an instrument, and you are trying to market your financial services product. Well, why don't you go to a micro influencers in the finance sector, and then offer them the ability to do some sort of legitimate campaign. See, that's the other aspect. You have ICOs, here's $10,000, give me a video, versus, hey, why don't we build a long-term relationship and see how we can pay you out multiple times, but you also support us multiple times, and we build a relationship kind of like how I mentioned Monarch does with the majority of their influencers. And so, you know, I think that's really important right now. It's you got to go to the right parties, you know, and you got to go to the right people.
Yeah, if I can just add real quick, in terms of your question about contests, I don't think that would be really enticing or get the right crowds like y'all said. But on the other hand, I think that done correctly, things like airdrops or bounties per se could be a good idea, because you can get, I don't know, it depends on how you structure it, but it could be a cost-efficient way to get a lot of people into your project, to know about your project, and to make some sort of contribution, get their skin in the game per se, so they have a reason to like come back and join the discussion and get other people involved. So I think that is something that companies should potentially explore in terms of ways to build their community and get their word out.
I think also just to echo you saying micro-influencers, even further than that, really engage with just the regular everyday people that say, oh, this is cool, I like that, like actually be actively engaging as many people as you can, just the regular people that are using your product, because that turns into word of mouth, that gives you further reach. So yeah.
I'm not putting down like the airdrop groups or the giveaways and stuff, but there's an overall marketing strategy, and these are just aspects of the overall marketing strategy. So, for example, when you do the airdrop alerts, that could be useful if it's part of your visibility in your marketing strategy. So there's always the overall marketing strategy, and bam, visibility. Okay, well, you can go ahead and give them out, but that visibility isn't going to convert users. That's a whole different marketing strategy. That's going to take retargeting. That's going to take, you know, different aspects of marketing. So there's just, it's like a huge system.
Sure.
Yeah, and obviously, if you think about what the ultimate goal of someone who joins a contest, joins an airdrop is, it's not the product. You haven't sparked their interest in the underlying product. You've just gotten them to know about it, and really what they care about is the financial reward. Whereas if you look, you know, you use that as a visibility bucket, then you also have referral bonuses for people who are now inside the system. All of a sudden now people are hearing about it from their friends. You create different sort of social linkages. There's ways that you can promote products. I mean, really successful marketing is, as Naeem has been explaining, it's multifaceted. It's many strategies all working simultaneously.
Since we're out of time, I do have a very important questions for you guys. I need a quick answer for this. What is the best way so far for you guys to gain followers?
Just transparency.
Just be myself.
I found finding other people and collaborating a lot, cross-pollination of channels has helped.
Collaboration, okay.
Generally, just be yourself.
Be yourself. Collaboration.
For me, it's listening to my community and putting out content that they want to listen to or hear or learn about.
Customized.
Consistency, quality, and volume.
Okay. Since we have a few minutes, I want to make this available to our audience. Anybody have questions here?
What's your favorite standpoint?
BitConnect.
I think BitConnect got a lot of people into the sphere.
It is.
It was one of those marketing things, you know?
It does work. Fortnite, my question was for Naeem. Fortnite was free at the beginning, and it developed a crowd. Then they started charging. So, you know, that's...
You know, the freemium models are the most effective. I'm actually releasing a platform soon. It's going to be completely free, and there's a way to monetize through invisible marketing, through affiliate links and things like that. So it's the most effective platform. That's what they did. You're right. Yeah.
I want to also point out that Bitcoin was free at the beginning, FYI. It was given away in faucets. You could just go to a website, put in your address, and you said, I want Bitcoin, and you would get Bitcoin, just like that. So it was free, actually.
And if you realize they're both free and they both added value at the time. Bitcoin added value because there was a financial crisis. People were able to store their money, send their money. It added value. It started free. Fortnite added value. Why? It was the first real, whatever the genre is of the game, but you know, the type of games where you just go in and you have 100 Royal Rumbles or whatever. It was the first one, so it added value. So you got to always lead with value. So that's why there's just so many facets to this, and that's why it's so important to have mentors and advisors that are really, really good at what they do.
And if you want to hire him, he's available.
When you're saying leading with
If
value,
you want to hire him, he's available, I said.
when you're saying leading with value, a lot of coins that I do look at that trying to raise something, I like to see a project either have done or already done. There are coins out there that, you know, the project is done, so they're asking for funds to continue the projects. And, you know, that's something a lot of people should look into.
That is a huge point. Venmo, at one point, they were about to go bankrupt. And they had one final meeting, and that meeting was a large amount of funds that was invested into them, and then now they eventually sold for, I think, 800 million, and then now they're worth a lot. They were acquired by PayPal, but it's like what you said. It's so important to lead with that, and you see that happen a lot. So the majority of companies that are good, they'll find enough funding to get at least the initial portion of their project up and running, unless it's some extravagant, crazy project. But then, you know, most of those aren't going to go well either. So the majority of projects that are good, they're already making things happen. You know, they're the projects that come and say, hey, like, we've run out of funding. We just need a little bit more because now we're at this point, and now we're at this point. And those are the projects that work really well. It's like, you don't want to just open up a fire hydrant at any CEO with a ton of, like, that's what you're doing when you fund these projects. You're just opening up a fire hydrant, and now that CEO is overwhelmed with all this money. They have no idea what to do with it, versus you spoon feed them money. Hey, here's a little bit more. And, you know, and obviously there's different strategies and stuff, and there's exceptions. But I think, like, that's what I've seen, you know. And you look at Bitcoin, did it have a huge amount of funds raised before it started?
Yeah, I think we'll have a question here.
Hi, yes. I'm with a company pre-ICO stage and languishing, of course, in this ridiculous depressed market, and just the whole, not even allowed to say ICO. And we're looking at bounty programs, and I just wanted to know if you have any advice on that and just how to really make the most of very limited funds, but we want to do it right. So bounty programs.
I have.
That's a wrong question for the influencer panel. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard without knowing what your product is and what kind of markets and what kind of bounties. It's just very open-ended. It's very extreme.
But who you want to see is somebody that's good at token economics.
But really be careful. There's so many bounty hunters. They just grab the token. They don't really do anything.
There doesn't seem to be a reliable formula or inroad.
Yeah, I mean, a good place to start looking is on Bitcoin talk forums. That's pretty much a place to go look for bounties or just like post your bounties or whatnot. So you can go take a look at what's been done in the past and see how they've worked, maybe dig into their archives and see what kind of discussions I've went through, what pain points, and you can kind of tweak what pieces you want for your project and what pieces you don't want, because there's a lot of different things you can do for it. Like, you can have bounties for like people tweeting, for people making content, for people fixing like your website, or bug bounty, just a ton of different possibilities there.
Yeah, I would just further add that if you can, really look at what you're trying to do. Look at, had you launched whatever you're going to launch before ICOs were a thing, how would you have done it? Would a token have been, if you didn't know what an ICO was, would you still be thinking, I need some sort of a digital token for what I'm doing? It's entirely necessary for this to work. Or did that come after the fact of, hey, this is a way to raise money? So really examine that, because everybody's waking up to that and seeing like, hey, here's a project that's having an ICO. What's the token for? Was that necessary? Like, you could take away the token and it still works just fine. So really examine that, because people have opened their eyes to that and they see through it. So just really ask yourself, is that token necessary?
Yeah.
I work with Heidi, who has the mic right now. I helped set this up. I'm in charge of our bounty program, and I had actually brought in about three or four interns to handle it. And all they do all day long is just weed out the scammers. And it takes their entire effort. One guy actually had a concern. where one of the scammers stuck in some country found his personal Facebook account and tried to bribe him for tokens. So that I will contact your girlfriend, your mother, and all this. You don't give me all your tokens. So bounties don't always give you the best quality of people, but it's good for awareness.